The only person inappropriate around here is me, but that's never
That's
been different.
accurate.
Jane Boulware just was on the show. What are we doing? What happened?
Ooh. So here's the thing. You were not here the day that we
I
had
was
Jane
not.
Boulware on, and I was thinking that you would love everything she's about, and we didn't get we got to kind of talk about the book and talk about a little bit about her background, but there's just so much more there that I wanted to have her back on. And that happens from time to time. So Jane Boulware, former Microsoft executive, author of the book Worthy from Cornfields to Corner Office of Microsoft.
Plus Kimberly Clark and pull-ups and so many things.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
So who'd you look at today?
I ran away. And then
In the opener? Oh, I who did I look at? DJ Cumberbund.
I looked at DJ Cumberbund for 1 second as I was running away. He has a couple new songs
Every day
out
somebody
right now,
different. Yeah.
He's got some great new songs out. So does Eminem. New song as of
Nice.
yesterday.
Hi, Chloe. Chloe sent me a box of treats from Scotland because she's lovely.
Isn't she lovely?
I know.
Well, let's grab our Jane Boulware out here. We have a lot of questions and very little time, so we got to do this the right way. So we'll grab her. Hi, Jane. Welcome on board again.
Hey, good morning. It's great to be here.
Sorry I missed you last time. I got pulled at the last minute.
Well, I'm glad you're here now. This is awesome.
Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me. You know, you kept saying, God, I wish Chris was here. He's such a great guy. I got to talk to Chris. So you gave me a chance to talk to Chris.
It was partly that he's a great guy, but I mean, other people I'd be like, nah, you'll catch up with him sometime. But I thought, so in this case, a lot of what you were saying about people not, they kind of limit themselves, I guess. And Chris's message for years has been much the same. Like, stop, you're limiting yourself. If you're waiting for permission, ding, you have permission, that kind of thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're so like aligned that I wanted to have you back.
I love it. And I think Chris, recently you wrote Make Your Own Luck or something like that. It's one of the posts that you put out there. So I like that.
That is something I definitely believe. I got in a weird argument with Stephen Pressfield about that because he was talking about, writers have a muse and how, you have to do all these things to honor the muse. And I said, that's baloney. You got to really work hard. And he goes, what do you think the muse thrives off? They thrive off of working hard. So Kerry covered a lot of ground. I didn't go back and rewatch the interview. So if I overlap a few things, I apologize, which is why I'm going to start with Scott Paper, because I bet she didn't hone in on that. But my Grammy worked her entire career in a paper mill, making toilet paper, tissues, and paper towels. And but that fed up to Scott because Maine, of course, back when we used to source things in our own country, was a great place of. There's a lot of forest owned by Kimberly Clark.
A lot of pulp, a lot of pulp and paper there.
You can't end the show now, by the way. Usually he ends the show with a story about
with a story about my Grammy. But specifically, you helped launch pull-ups and good nights.
Yeah.
So pull-ups were revolutionary. My first kid shot out around 2002, the next one around 2006. Before that, I mean, look, I was born as far back as cloth. It must have been such a crazy thing to convince people. I know you guys know what diapers are, but have you seen this? Was that heady times? Like, you always get talked about Microsoft, and I definitely will go there. But was that nuts to launch such a cool new product?
It was so cool. I mean, honestly, when we launched it, it was new. The concept was new. People didn't know what it was. So you kind of had to do like the up and down, and the commercial showed everything, the product, and it was just so positive. And then when we launched it, like, like you launched a new product, you kind of do one of these. You're like, gosh, I hope this goes well. It went so well that we had to do a regional rollout. And, we're old enough to remember when Coors beer wasn't available nationally. And so you do like beer runs to Colorado to get it, to bring it back. People would do that for pull-ups, disposable underpants, right? And people would get mad. Retailers would get mad because moms would be coming in. They'd be saying, what is this? My sister-in-law has it and I don't have it. And why can't I get it? It was really both mind-blowing because you're thinking, wow, this is really resonating with people. And then you realize, like, holy cow, we got to get our act together to get this out there because people are literally getting pissed off. So it was really fun, exciting, plowing new ground, didn't know what we were doing, let's make it happen kind of thing. So pretty cool. I mean, in your career, you hope to be able to be involved in one of those. And I was lucky enough to be involved in a couple of those opportunities. Because not that long afterwards, we did the Good Nights, and we launched that, which was, disposable underwear for kids that were a little older that experienced bedwetting. Yeah.
Well, now we're in B2B SaaS, so there's just as much crying probably as you saw in the trials for Good Nights, but not usually fewer diapers.
Yeah. It was interesting. I did not really, we again didn't understand the size of the opportunity when we launched that, but I didn't at that time appreciate just how emotional bedwetting was, because I hadn't experienced it with my kids or myself. And it's often, runs in the family. And so you'd get these emails or you get these mails from people that, their kids had never gone on sleepovers. It was at the time that one of the number one causes for child abuse for kids that age, because people thought it was intentional. There was all this emotional stuff wrapped up. And it wasn't just about launching the product. It was about addressing a physical need. It was about addressing the emotional need. And so the letters that came in were like, you don't get letters from 2 and 3 year old people that are, toilet training, but you do get letters from kids that are 6, 7, 8, grandparents, parents, et cetera. And that was pretty amazing.
I was thinking of you, Jane, because I saw a BuzzFeed article and it was something like, what was your kind of butterfly effect moment? So people talking about one decision that they made in their life that changed everything, put them on a whole new trajectory. And I wondered what that was for you.
Well, going to college, first of all, was like a really big first step for me, because that blew my mind open to what existed that I didn't know existed before. So that was really amazing. But I would say probably the biggest professional decision was when I was offered to work in our Latin American operations and travel throughout Latin America. And I had barely left. I'd never been overseas at that point, never used my passport, had only seen the ocean for the first time a few years before that. So the concept of actually working overseas was inconceivable. And in talking it over with my husband and I, we said, what can go wrong? Kidnapping, lots of things in hindsight. Yeah. And that was a turning point, because we said yes to something that it was like jumping off a cliff and not being able to see the bottom. We didn't even know what it looked like. And that taught me a lot, not only professionally, but personally, about getting outside your comfort zone and figuring it out and just doing it, just jumping. And that was the first of many times that I did that professionally. Some of which worked out, some of which I crashed terribly on the rocks below, but separate stories. Mostly it turned out pretty well.
I was thinking about the difference, because like starting in the weird middle like that at Kimberly-Clark, I was thinking about the fact that a launch is so vividly different than just coming in and doing marketing stuff. Someone says, hey, come take over some emails and whatever. And you go, yeah, sure, fine. A launch, all the eyes are on you. You come over, you do some MSN stuff when you start at Microsoft, you do some the online part of the business, that's whatever. It was there. You like acquired it. But then again, you head towards Windows 7, you head towards Surface. These are placard, everyone's watching kinds of things. Yeah. Were you seeking that, or did it come to you? How did it come that you found yourself at all these key moments?
Oh man, I would love to see. I had this really amazing plan and I strategically nonsense. I tend to actually find myself in situations and thrive in situations where either the job is too risky, shitty, or unknown that nobody else wants to do it, or it is new and people think it might not be a big deal or whatever, and we have an opportunity to make it big. And that's what's happened to me a couple of times. Like, no one said, hey, we're going to put you on this opportunity or give you this chance, and it's going to become huge. It was more, hey, let's see what we can do with it, or a turnaround. Like the Scott Paper thing was not healthy at all when we got the business, and there was a risk of it imploding. And then to turn that around and figure out a lot of the elements of a launch and a turnaround are very similar. What's unique here? How do we talk about it in a way that will resonate? What are things that we want to do that maybe haven't been done because the tried and true aren't going to get us there, right? And so that was really cool. And even launching Surface into the enterprise, there was almost no belief that Surface would resonate with we call it the enterprise, with business customers, because budgets are really small. IT doesn't really want to introduce something that's expensive because they've got a limited budget they have to work with. So they'd rather get, a black box machine for $300 for 100 people than a $3,000 device for 10, right? So it was really mind-blowing that it did as well as it did. And by the time I left, we were selling more devices, more Surface into the enterprise than we were even with consumers. And so, yeah, it was really that opportunity partially was made by the team and partially was because we looked for opportunities and holes that others didn't see and ran through them. Does that make sense?
I was just reading that Andy Crestodino was talking about, he's with Orbit Media. He was talking about how AI is really good at spotting what's missing and people
Mhm.
are less so. So how do you view it a landscape like you were in and think this is missing, we could do something here?
Well, honestly, you start with listening to a lot of people and putting together the connections. Like I'm from Iowa. I have like pretty humble backgrounds. And so I don't necessarily have the pedigree of a lot of people and think traditionally. But one of the things that I think I do well is listen to a lot of different people from a lot of different places, synthesize it and boil it down to what's the common denominator that people relate to. And so identifying that and figuring out how to talk to people in a way that's meaningful to them, not just like at Microsoft, God love us, them. The most of the marketing was done for the people inside the company. If you looked at their marketing, it was stuff that like we talked to ourselves. We used the language we were comfortable with. We used the positioning we were comfortable with. We told them what they needed to hear according to us. And what turned things around is when we were able to say, here's what you said you wanted, and here's how we solve your problem, which is basic marketing. I get it. But it's amazing how sometimes, even when you look at these ads, like on the Super Bowl, sometimes, do you ever look at them and say, what was that? I don't understand that. And so and then when you look at the things that are rated well, it's almost always the things that you resonate with, that you can relate to, something that you identify with. And so I think the difference was surrounding myself with really creative people that took that key message that people identified with and delivered it in such a way that was memorable, whether it was the music or it was the background or it was changing the product around and bringing it all together.
I'm going to turn the road a little bit. We're going to get a little into your book and also your mentoring and your sponsors, all that kind of work. But another thing I was looking at was that the way you kind of paid your way through school was selling carpets and prayers. Those are scenarios where you get a chance to hear some more no's. It seems like all through Worthy, there's a theme of, being able to take a punch in the face. How do you translate that from your life where you dealt with it face on and whatnot to other people's lives? Or is it just a guarantee we've all had some kind of, experience with negativity and no and all that sort of a thing? How do you bring that out of people that weren't you?
I think the question is how do people handle rejection? And does everybody have to handle rejection?
That's a way better rephrase than what I've got.
Oh, I don't want to answer the wrong. We'll make it up as we go along. You look, if you're striving and growing, and if you're trying new things, oh, that's awesome. If you're trying new things, then you're going to fail, or someone's going to tell you what you can't, won't, or shouldn't do. Right? If you're in a position that is a stretch, or maybe you're in a role that wasn't filled by someone like you in the past, or even if you're taking a job that you've never done before, you're going to have people that are going to tell you what you can't do. It's just guaranteed. It's going to happen. And the answer is really, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I don't know how to do this. But adding the word yet to the end of that tells me that it's something that I'm striving towards and I'm going to figure it out. Right? And I like being told sometimes what I can't do. I like being told what won't happen or can't happen, because in some ways that fuels me to do and to lean in a little bit and to think differently, and to just like I can't. Literally, my resilience was born of the fact that I did not have a choice. Like if I wanted to pay for my college tuition, I already had 3 jobs. Like I needed to find another way. And you said I sold carpeting. I sold used carpeting scraps, basically, to college kids who had cold dormitory floors. My dad laid carpeting for a living. He had a garage full of scraps, and he taught me how to seam them together to form the basic size of a dormitory room floor. And I rolled them up, put them in the back of my car, drove back to college and sold them from the back of my car. And the longer the line was, the more I sold them for. So it taught me marketing, taught me what the guys liked versus the girls liked, shag versus tweed, all that stuff. And just in the process of doing that, I was able to figure out, people would have told me that was crazy to do. It's great. And it was crazy, but it worked. It worked. And people loved it and they paid for it. And I learned from it. And at the end of the day, it helped me pay for tuition. And as for selling my mom's prayers, she didn't find out about that till quite a few years later. But she got up every morning, really early in the morning, to say her prayers before she started her day. And she had a list of people she prayed for. And some people she put like votive candles on the stove for, because they were like big prayers, I guess, versus little prayers. But my friends would say, hey, your mom's praying for her. They'd hear me talk about her. Will she pray for me? I have an exam. So I'd say, Mom, we pray for Katie. She's got an exam. Of course, Janie, of course I will. And this happened over and over again. And soon it became like this thing. Her name was Madonna Bernadette, which of course means straight line to God, right? So they would come to me and they'd say,
did Madonna Bernadette get a cut?
Madonna Bernadette didn't have a clue. She would have been appalled. Oh my gosh, if my mom would have known, it would not have gone well. But really no harm, no foul, right? Because she did say the prayers. And I didn't charge friends or family for them. It was just the people I didn't know. And so it seemed to me like a good solution. I don't know. But Madonna Bernadette, I did make her, like, during exams, there'd be a lot of names. So I made her write them down because I didn't want anybody to flunk. You never know. You
got to believe in your product.
So, yeah, so that's an example, I think, where it's kind of like the marketing, right? The solution was there, if you will. I mean, you've kind of had to find the way to make that work. Did I go into this saying, how can I make money off my mom's prayers? No, of course I never did. Mom, I didn't, I swear. But when I'm waiting for the lightning bolt. But when people kept coming, it was like, wow, okay, I got to both pare this down a little bit because it's getting to be silly. And so only those that really were serious about Mom and Madonna Bernadette. And honestly, it kept me in school. It enabled me to continue to study because I didn't have the money I went to college and mostly didn't buy the textbooks because I didn't even have the money to pay for it. So was that such a bad exchange? When I told Mom, it was like a holy exchange. That's what I said. It was a holy exchange. I'm the unholy one. You are the holy one. Between the two of us, we lended something good to the world.
It seems like between Worthy, it seems like between Worthy and your work with the Boys and Girls Club and all these other things that you're doing, it seems like you've got a pretty good, checkbook that you're paying karma back. Do you look at it that way at all? Do you look at this as things, what drives you to do Boys and Girls Club? What drives you to do coaching and mentorship of women, especially, and all that? What's the engine right now for you on that?
It's true. I mean, you gotta pay forward what you've been given. And I've been given so much, in support from individuals, in the support from a gnarly nun who helped me see my way to college and helped me get a scholarship. I've had some incredible mentors that have changed and supported me through my life. And without them, I don't know where I would be. Probably not on the show. And so, yeah, you got to pay forward what you've been given. Truly. I mean, it's that simple. And the Boys and Girls Club is that simple. It is. These are many kids that are Boys and Girls Club are great and don't need financial support and have lots of means, but many of them don't. And I, for one, was one of those kids that needed the support and got some support when I needed it. And had it not been for that, again, I didn't even see the world and know what it could have been. So I want to be able to enable kids that have that opportunity, that have that drive, that want to do things but don't have the resources to have that step through the door. I always say, I can help. That's mentoring. I can open the doors for you. I can help you open the doors, but you got to walk through it yourself. So the scholarship for Boys and Girls Club, or the resources for Boys and Girls Clubs, opens doors for those kids. And many of those kids you open the doors for will run through it. They'll run through it. It's just that the doors have been so closed to many of them that anything that we can do to help that, it's awesome. And then as far as mentoring, it's kind of the same thing. I fundamentally have this belief that success isn't reaching the top of the tower. It's throwing down the ropes and opening the gates of the castle so others can come in. That's my definition of success. I love that I ascended to one of the top of the turrets, but it's how many people can you take up with you, and how many can you get to help others. So for example, when I mentored, I was being asked to mentor so much that I finally said, I wouldn't mentor anyone that wasn't already mentoring 5 people. So when they came to me to be mentored, I'd say, great, okay. Or to spend time with me. How are you giving back what I give you? And sometimes I'd hear, I don't have time. I'd love to, but I don't have time. To which I thought, wow, gosh, I don't think I have much more time than you do. And if you're not willing to give what you get, then I don't think I'm going to give you what I got. Right? So in the process of doing the 1 to 5, I was mentoring, like 10 people. So I figured that was a way to do force multiplier, right? And then I asked if they were comfortable, ask their mentees to mentor 5. And in the process of doing that, we just would create some momentum, some positive momentum. Because if we don't fundamentally change the view from the corner office, if we don't get people who think differently, who look differently, who act differently in the corner office, we're going to get what we always got. And that's not going to get us where we want to go. So that's my passion for why I want to do it. And how I do it is,
like a pyramid scheme.
It's a pyramid scheme. It's a total pyramid scheme. That's it. Yeah. And then, honestly, if you're mentoring someone and they're mentoring someone, they appreciate it more because they know that it's not just, you have to put thought into it. You have to be really vested in the person. And when they're doing that for someone else and experience that, if they hadn't before, they get it. And they became better mentees. And they became more actionable with the conversation we had because they valued it more. So, yeah, it's kind of the pyramid scheme. Great.
Well, the book is called Worthy. And in the process, one of the biggest themes I found in the book was a lot about self-worth. Like there were just so many ways in which, you had to find stuff in you and make yourself worthy before other people would pay attention. Any thought you want to give to people on the way out the door on that particular detail before I wrap up and ask you, the standard ending questions?
Yeah. I think a lot of times we hold ourselves back. We hold ourselves back because we're afraid, and we can point a finger to a lot of other people about the opportunities that don't exist or the negativity that we may receive. But at the end of the day, sometimes I found that the most harsh voice was the voice inside of my own head. And I had to learn to overcome that voice and to say, just because I'm afraid doesn't mean I can't do it. And to think that I have to be fearless before I do something is nonsense. So I've kind of taught myself not to be, I'm not so much afraid of being afraid anymore, which means that I realize that if I'm stretching and growing, it's okay to be afraid. So the feedback I would give to others is that if you are feeling uncomfortable and you're feeling nervous or you're feeling any of those things, it's okay. You're stretching. And if you fail, that's okay. You'll learn and grow, but keep trying. Try something you've never done before. Yeah.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
You're muted.
We came to this.
No, I'm just glad it wasn't me.
It's like Zoom.
It up.
Every Zoom since the pandemic. Sorry, you're muted.
Person of the day today is Elizabeth. How could we not? It's her birthday. We have to give it to our ship captain, Elizabeth. So,
yay, Elizabeth! Happy birthday.
She went out and fell in love with some sailing, decided to become a full-on ship captain. She now owns her own vessel. So
that's awesome.
that's kind of cool, right?
Very cool.
We probably did this to you once before, but you can add a new thing. This is the question we've asked every single guest. Sir Mix-a-Lot, who's one of your neighbors up that way? What goes in your backpack? This could be something physical, like a potato chip. It could be something metaphorical, like hope for the future. Carrie, what's something you could add physical to a backpack, by the way?
Ooh, extra set of teeth. DJ Cumberbund. My favorite answer still.
I love that. Yeah.
You never know, Jane.
Oh, honestly, I kind of wish like I had something clever. I would just say passion, because honestly, passion will overcome a lot of mistakes. It'll overcome a lot of reasons why no. It'll overcome a lot of people that tell you what you can't, won't, or shouldn't do. It'll open a lot of doors and make you create a lot of firsts. And it will enable you, when you've lost the path on your backpack, to just keep going and have the faith and confidence that it's going to work out. And it'll bring most likely other people with you because it's contagious. Not like a pyramid scheme necessarily, but it is contagious. And there's almost nothing you can't do with the support of others and some passion and some commitment and resilience.
Get yourself a copy of Worthy. All the proceeds go to the Boys and Girls Club. Check out JaneBoulware.com.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. One of the things that I was saying earlier, that my Grammy worked at the paper company, so she did toilet paper, paper towels, and tissue on different days, is you could always tell her mood on which of those three that she was working on, because if it was ever toilet paper,